We are back with another session of redefining success. And today we are talking about overcoming fear. And really, sometimes that's the crippling thing that holds us back from doing the thing or starting that venture, starting that next job or career move, whatever that is in our life. Is sometimes just overcoming fear and quieting that self-doubt can really just make or break us. And that sets us up for success. And, when we talk about this whole series about redefining success, it really does come down to ultimately how do we view success, but also how do we view fear? So, which one are we trying to cater to, and which one are we trying to feed at this moment? So, if we keep giving into self doubt and fear, that ends up crippling that next big step that we could take in moving closer to what is success for us. So, Amy, I'd love for you to kind of kick us off with this. This is one of my favorite topics. I love talking about fear. I love talking about insecurities and self doubt. This is what we do on The Confident Woman, because for us to be the confident woman, we have to overcome those things. So,
Yeah.
love for you to kind of just kick us off here.
Yeah. I mean, fear is such a real thing, but I think it comes down to really redefining our relationship and our perspective on fear. Fear is always going to be there. I mean, it's a fact of life. It's our brain. Our brain's job is to keep us safe. So, what I've really learned and leaned into is that fear isn't something to be afraid of in and of itself. Fear is there to keep me safe. But what I can do is I can begin to acknowledge that, recognize when that fear is starting to hold me back, acknowledge it, and take action. Because a lot of times we're building this fear up in our mind. So much of what we're afraid of doesn't actually exist. It's not the primal brain, the lions, the tigers, the bears. Oh my, it's not that. It's a story that we're projecting into the world, or, we think that someone's going to respond a certain way. We think that, okay, if I take this leap of faith, that this could go wrong. Again, it's our brain's way of trying to keep us safe. But when we start to really lean into fear and realize, oh, okay, you're there. I know that you're trying to keep me safe, but I need to go for it anyways. I need to bet on myself, lean inwards to myself, to my faith. That is powerful. And that's where you start to befriend fear and use it as a catalyst for growth. How about you, Rachel?
Exactly. I'm over here just echoing everything that you're saying because it can really, you know, for me when I guess before we kind of got started and all the things that we're doing in our life, right? So it's like the big things, the things that have set us up for where we're at today. I remember having so much self doubt and so feeling so insecure and thinking, oh my goodness, what if? And a lot of that what if, right? So that's our anticipation of what could go wrong. And that's that fear, which is our primal brain protecting us. And fear is so, first and foremost, we can never rid fear. Fear is innate. It's always going to be there. It's there to warn us. It's there to give us caution, like, hey, there might be, a monster up ahead, or like whatever that is. It's there really to inform and warn. However, when we keep feeding into that, like, oh yeah, you're right. I should probably not take that route because I can get hurt. I can get, you know, off on the wrong path or whatever that is. It's there to serve. However, it's not of service when we're in a place to serve. That's the difference. And when we look at fear itself as part of the hindering of where we're going to go, one of my absolute favorite quotes is, "Do the thing you fear the most, and the fear of death is certain." And that's a Mark Twain quote. And when I was coming up into my work where I'm at now, just really through personal growth transformation, and I remember being so riddled with fear, and that quote came about. And I was thinking, well, what does that mean? How can I ever become fearless? Which again doesn't exist. But having that quote in mind had allowed me to now say, well, how do I stand up to this? And what it really is when fear is coming towards you to attack you, what we find ourselves doing in turn is actually running in front of it. So fear ends up chasing us. So when we're at a place where we can stop and recognize, we can boldly turn around and say, fear, you have no power over me. Because that's the minute that fear diminishes, because it has no power when it's chasing you because it knows it can keep going until you decide that's enough. Turn around and say, you have no power. Everything will minimize. And, that's in per situation. So like I said, it'll always manifest and come back up in some new venture, new thing that's happening because your mind hasn't experienced it yet. So it can't build that rapport that says, oh, it's safe up around that corner. Remember, we've been there before. And so that's, when we look at that fear, again, it's used for fuel, but it's also there for your protection. But you have to discern between the two. What is it feeding and fueling in this moment and in this season of your life? And that also comes with that self-doubt, because if we haven't done something before, that doubt will creep in. Fear will validate it and say, yeah, I remember that's that thing. And so now it's becomes this cocktail and recipe for us to just, you know, either do nothing about it, turn away, or give up. And that's the complete opposite of what we're trying to do and promote here on this series, which is called Redefining Success. Because when we can tackle that fear, we're redefining what fear is, we're redefining what our future is, we're redefining what success is. And in turns, we can actually redefine what failure is, because failure isn't the opposite of success. Failure is actually the stepping stones to success. So,
Yeah.
how about you, Amy?
Yeah, absolutely. Like failure is just, it's self created. It's a story
Mhm.
that we're telling us. But so many of the things that you just mentioned, I was jotting notes down. And one of my favorite things was really to start to question it. That's one of my favorite things to do when I find myself just getting paralyzed, getting stuck in that analysis paralysis. A lot of times it's that subconscious fear. We don't know what to do. So we would rather stay safe and stay in that state of fear. But really starting to question it and say, you know what is worst case scenario? If I went for this thing, if I, when I quit my job, that's what really helped me get through was realizing, okay, you know what? I'm walking away from this 9 to 5 job because I'm willing to bet on myself. Is it scary? Sure. Could things go wrong? Sure. But what if it all works out? What if I can be that light for someone else? What if me taking that bold action, acknowledging the fear and doing it anyways? What if that all works out for me? And it's beautiful because what our brain's doing, it's always seeking confirmation for our thoughts. And so now you start to see opportunities. You start to see those opportunities that are all around you that before you hadn't seen because that fear, that voice of fear is so, so loud.
Mhm.
But realizing and acknowledging, okay, you're there. I see you. But what really is worst case? And how can I leverage this, as you said, for fuel? Because, like you said, we always are hearing in society, oh, you have to be fearless. You have to be fearless. But exactly to your point, it's always going to be there. You aren't going to get to the point where fear doesn't exist. It's new level, new devil. We all have it. But when we can acknowledge it, when we are aware of where and how it's holding us back, and often it's subconscious. So, really taking the time to lean into our faith, to get quiet, to quiet the noise around us, and realize where that fear is taking hold of us, and to boldly move forward. Having that faith in ourselves is crucial, absolutely crucial. We have to have that faith in order to move through the fear.
Exactly, exactly. And one of the things, you touched upon obviously is faith, because faith over fear, right? It's not just a mantra or a little, quote or something you see on
Right.
social media. It's a real deal. So the importance of having that faith in overcoming fear helps build that confidence. And so when we can overcome fear through faith, and here's a verse that I love to share here is Mark 4:40. Why are you so afraid? Don't you have any faith yet? That's the question. What? everybody to ask, do you not believe that it's possible? And when you have that faith, faith in self belief, faith in your higher power, faith in knowing that things will work out, faith in knowing that you've come this far in your life, fear has not won. You are already winning. And when you look back at those through lines and the pattern, and when you have that solid foundation built upon faith and trust and belief, you become unstoppable. So when fear does try to rear its ugly head and peek around the corner and say, I'm that monster lurking out there, you could just say, it's okay. I got fear and nothing, or I have faith and nothing can squander that. Nothing can take that away because you're so deeply rooted in faith in who you are, whose you are, what you're capable of. And that builds that firm foundation of confidence. So that is, it's powerful. And like I said, it's not just one of those shareable memes or whatever that you find on social media. It's the real deal. Embed that into your heart and speak that boldly and loudly. So when you turn to face your fear and you have no power over me, you could speak that truth in life back into it. And that's what squanders it. So again, light will drive out the darkness, and the darkness is where fear lurks and hides.
Yeah. And it really comes down to that self awareness, knowing yourself, knowing where you're holding yourself back. Because by you holding yourself back and playing small, you're not able to fully serve others. And that's something we're going to dive into a little bit deeper next week is just that authenticity in leadership. Knowing how us being bold and stepping into these leadership positions despite the fear, despite the self doubt, and just leaning into our authenticity is powerful. And as leaders, we need to harness that now more than ever because our ability to go first, to be the leader, to show others, you know what? Just because you're experiencing fear, it's okay. So am I. We're all human. But if we can link arms together and support one another, that right there is so, so powerful. Together, we can make a huge impact on the world.
Absolutely. Well said. And that's, a really great way for us to wrap up today's message because we have so much to unpack for next week. As you said, we'll be talking about really the power of authenticity and leadership. And that is something when, again, to echo what Amy said, when you start to implement faith over fear, you step fully into that leadership position. And as a leader, it's not necessarily that you, again, are fearless and that you know the way and everything's paved smoothly for you. It's about stepping boldly into who you are created to be. And so we'll dive into that further next week. So thank you for joining us.